EWTNnews.com. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie starts now.
And we're underway here on a midweek broadcast of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. I'm Jerry Usher with my co-host, Debbie Georgiani. And good to have you with us. Michael Birchfield is running the controls today. Jeff Burson on social media. And Ryan Penny, as always, you get to hear his enthusiastic, passionate voice. He loves the faith, loves talking with you and screening your calls here on our program and some others at EWTN. And Debbie, we got a part two today.
Part two of how Catholic are our Catholic schools. That's what we're talking about today. So if you didn't get on the show yesterday, please call back and just let Ryan know that you were on, hanging on the line, and time ran out. And Ryan will happily push you to the front of the line because we asked him to do that. It's only fair. You've been waiting so long. Some folks wait 15, 20, 25 minutes to get on to Take Two. We wish we could go faster, but we want to give everybody their quality time, and that's very important. So that's why we're doing a part two on this about Catholic schools. We've gotten voice messages, social media posts, emails, texts, you name it. You found a way to reach us and share about your Catholic schools. And that's a good thing. These conversations, they have to be had, and they're very important. So please, folks, if you wanted to say something about your Catholic school, if you want to maybe share some wisdom about it and some advice about going into the future of what we need to put our efforts towards, please do that now at 1-833-288-EWTN. Again, that's 1-833-288-3986.
And we've got a lot of social media comments and email comments carrying over from yesterday. But as always, the calls do drive the program. For the most part, we like to fit in some of the others as well. But Debbie just gave you that number, 833-288-3986. Debbie, I know you wanted to share something. I've got a couple things as well on my mind. And I just wanted to say, before we go any further, that Sylvia, if you're listening right now, she was the last caller, would have been the last caller on yesterday's show, and we didn't get to her. And she sent a very lengthy and just heartfelt email about her three daughters who, are now away from the church, and she feels like it was partly because of, they going away to school and things like that. So we're going to be praying, Sylvia, for you and your daughters and your grandkids and for everyone who's in that situation. So thank you for your email. Just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay, so please call in. Yes, definitely. Please call in about this topic about Catholic schools. And yesterday we had just some wonderful comments and more that were coming in overnight from Alberta, Canada. And we're going to share about that, about the public funding to help Catholic schools and to recatechize families and things that are happening in Alberta, Canada. That's very encouraging. But, yesterday we got a lot of calls from Wichita, Kansas, in the Diocese of Wichita, sharing about how there's a stewardship program to allow Catholic schools to be available for everyone. It's really quite amazing. And as calls were coming in and comments were coming in, and they were talking about the absolute love they had for the late Bishop Eugene Gerber, who died last year, how he started this stewardship program in Wichita. It reminded me that my bishop here in the Diocese of Phoenix, Bishop Olmsted, he was appointed to Wichita, Kansas before he came to Phoenix, Arizona. And so I sent him an email yesterday in hopes. He's very busy bishop. Just to let you know, he's written some great exhortations and booklets like Catholics in the Public Square, Into the Breach for men, and his newest exhortation, Complete My Joy, for husbands and wives. Folks, if you ever want to read some really fantastic, powerful stuff, just Google Bishop Olmsted and the works that he's done. He's worked for for John Paul II directly. So what does that say? say. I mean, he worked for a saint. Also, he was this lead speaker at the Catholic prayer breakfast this year. But anyway, so we wrote him this email, and I didn't know if he'd have time to respond. And he responded so beautifully. And then I asked him if we could share this on the air. And he said, yes, you can share partial or all of it. And then I reread it, and I thought, you know what, folks, I really want you to hear from our shepherds. I really want you to hear from great leaders who just have a love for everything that we're doing to try and grow closer to God. So listen to this. He wrote, Dear Debbie and Jerry, it was a great blessing and joy to serve as coadjutor bishop of Wichita, assisting Bishop Eugene Gerber. Every day he inspired me and taught me by example, above all, how to serve and lead the people of God. Bishop Gerber was a wise, loving, and generous shepherd of the Diocese of Wichita. Under his leadership, he worked closely with the priests and laity to form disciples of Jesus who understood that Christian stewardship is part and parcel of fidelity to the risen Lord. Because of the deep commitment made by the whole diocesan family to be generous stewards of God's gifts, the parishes were able to provide Catholic education without tuition. It was understood that the financial responsibility for Catholic education rests with all God's people, not just the parents. Wow, that is powerful. One of the things that most impressed me, that this comes from Bishop Olmsted of the Diocese of Phoenix, one of the things that most impressed me in the stewardship formation was the strong emphasis on being good stewards of time, i.e., ask oneself, what kind of time do I give to my wife, my husband each day, to my children, to God? Children were encouraged to give 5 minutes a week to Eucharistic adoration as soon as they began kindergarten. And because of that, many parishes developed programs of Eucharistic adoration 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Wow, that's huge, folks. Christian stewardship, rightly understood, builds a culture of vocations, recognizing that God has a vocation for each person, and whatever it may be, it will require making a total gift of self to God and to whomever God gives us to love. In that culture of vocations, the Diocese of Wichita has had strong family life and many vocations to the priesthood and religious life. And then he goes on with kind words. He says, thank you for doing this particular program. And he said, be assured of my interest, support, and prayers, light and wisdom in Christ, from Bishop Olmsted. Wow. I mean, you know what? The Diocese of Wichita, you guys are doing it right. That's all I got to say.
Well, I just wanted to follow up on that, Debbie. There was an article in the National Catholic Register published by EWTN last June 7th of 2018, and I love the title they gave it. There is a vocation boom in Wichita. And folks, this is the fruit of all that Debbie was talking about in that email from Bishop Olmsted. It's not rocket science. It's just prayer. It's adoration. It's supporting the family. It's educating our kids. The Diocese of Wichita ordained 10 men to the priesthood last year for the second year in a row, and that upped the priestly population there by 20%. And I believe they have the largest number one of the largest numbers of seminarians of any diocese in the country. So that's something for us to think about as we talk today about Catholic education. How Catholic are our schools? Do you have a great experience to share? Maybe a not so good experience. We're not taking sides here. We're just talking about this so that we can come out better at the end of the program. Get on that open phone line there at 833-288-3986.
Hey Alexa, how many ways can I get EWTN?
You can get EWTN on television, via cable and satellite, on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Google Play. You can get EWTN radio in your car on Sirius XM Channel 130, and on the go on any mobile device with the EWTN app. And here's the best news. Now you can get EWTN's great programming on Me.
Father Benedict Rochelle.
I don't think people should have negative fears of God, but I think you should get a lump in your throat. You should feel excited. Suppose I was going to take you and introduce you to the Pope or to the president of some country or something. You might get a little lump in your throat. Forget it. Every day, you, I, live and move and have our being in the presence of God. These are the class of feelings we should have. And we should have them to an intense degree if we really had the sight of Almighty God. These feelings are the feelings which we shall have if we realize His presence. And in proportion as we believe that He is present, we shall have them. And not to have them is not to realize, not to believe that God is present to us.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
Sorry.
5
Eastern.
Yep.
Okay, this is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and we are talking about Catholic schools today and how Catholic are our Catholic schools, part 2, because we had so many calls yesterday, so we decided to do a part 2. Just to kind of highlight, if you can't physically make it to Mass, well, guess what? EWTN's got you covered. We have the Mass broadcasted from Our Lady of the Angels Chapel in Irondale at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Pretty exciting, because if you can't make it physically there, if you're homebound, if you're in the hospital, if something's going on and you can't make it, you can still listen, and on TV you can view Mass, and it's really beautiful. I have to tell you, my mother lives on EWTN.
Mm-hmm.
She lives on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thank God for Mother Angelica and her vision and her wisdom to keep this going, because my mother, I don't know how she would have survived 88 years without EWTN. She loves it. Anyway.
Yeah, EWTN helped keep my mom alive until 90. So
there you go.
She couldn't live without it either. So praise God indeed. Yeah. All right, we're talking today about Catholic schools, and we want to hear from you. We're going to maybe throughout the show, Debbie, we can kind of pepper in some of the takes and comments we had from yesterday, because there were so many really good stories, some heartfelt, not so happy outcomes, or at least at this moment in time. So we want to talk about this. We're not here to say to bash any places where bad things are going on, and canonize any places where good things are going on. We just want to have a conversation in your area, in your own experience as a child growing up with your kids, your grandkids. What is the state, the condition of Catholic education where you are? 833-288-3986. And we'll start with Denise, Debbie. She is in Texas, listening up, of course, on Guadalupe Radio. Welcome to Take Two, Debbie. Denise, thank you for calling.
Thank you. I was just very interested in this topic because we have gone round and round with our Catholic schools here, and have seen where we started out on a Catholic mission, and we're teaching our children the Catholic faith through great academics in the schools. And all of a sudden, with the, if it's okay, I can say the left-winged agenda, we have gone a secular route, and we are getting away from classic education, and we've gone to Common Core, novel studies, new math, all the different things. We've gotten away from vocabulary books of actually working out a word in a workbook. And I feel like we have really strayed from what the kids actually need to learn. We've gone iPads and technology. We're not using paper pencils. It's all on screens. The books are on screens, the paper, the scratch paper, the homework assignments, all of it, and it's all submitted online. So even for these families at home who do not allow their children to have screens or cell phones or tablets or computers, the schools are giving them, and the parents have no control over what their children are seeing. And then these children are smart enough to hack through and see things they shouldn't see, just because the school has handed it over to them. So, where did our true Catholicism go? Why have we lost our mission? And then, another key thing too is that the cost of Catholic school has gone up so much to where it's really a private school now. It's not even a Catholic school. And those of us who should have 10 children can't afford to send all your children to school at a Catholic school because it's too expensive. There's no grandfather in anymore or there's not any after the third child. The sequential children can go free that you pay for the first 3, that is no longer there. So we've really lost our whole mission. We're not teaching our children that it's important to sing in Mass. We're not teaching them that it's important to participate in the Mass. Why don't we teach them more about saints of the day, readings of the day, gospel, scripture? I just feel like we've really strayed. And I do know that there are awesome, great things. Our child is still in a Catholic school. There are great things about Catholic schools. I just feel like we need to get back to the beginning and to the mission and back on track and not where we are currently.
Well, Denise, I'll go first, but I have to tell you, after yesterday's show, I was struggling because I was praying about it in a deep way. I'm very how can I say this? I'm very attached to this, to the outcome of what can happen with Catholic schools and religious education, simply because I spent my whole entire adult life in religious education. And a lot of Catholic school students their parents, wisely so, would also enroll them in Catholic religious education, in addition to them going to Catholic school. Very wise. And I was shocked. I have to be honest with you. In all the years that I was a director of religious education, I was shocked, because I used to count on the Catholic school kids to have the answers, and they didn't. They didn't, and it was shocking. Yeah, it was shocking. And I will tell you, Denise, and this is, please, no disrespect to any Catholic school, but I'm going to tell you something. It can start with one person. Who has a different agenda in the Catholic school system, and they can change everything. They can move the direction of the Catholic school to a whole new direction. And I just will say that I think that parents need to have their voices be heard in a very peaceful, loving way, but come together and say, this is not what we want. We're paying for our children to have a Catholic education. We want an authentic Catholic education. I'm just going to ask you this question. When you go into a store, when you go into a restaurant, when you go into a hair salon, when you go into anything that you are expecting a service, do you want it 50%? No. Okay. Nope. If you went in and got your hair permed, your head came out permed, curled, and the other half was straight, would you be okay with that? I mean, seriously.
I would not. No.
Okay. Thank you. So my point is, if you are saying you want your children to have a Catholic education, give the children 100%. It is unfair. And I hope pastors are listening, and I hope schools are listening, and school administrators are. Yeah, because I just want to say, folks, give them 100%, and then let these children decide. If you're just going to give them 50% or partial, or you're going to conform to society. And by the way, we're not called to conform to society. We're called to transform society. Big difference. I'm just going to say we are really not giving our children the best we can possibly give them. And Denise, I just would say, you got to just get groups of people together. I say, have your bishop or your diocese look at Wichita, have them look at Alberta, Canada. Obviously, they're doing it right. So, Jerry, what do you think? I'm sorry. I just get I don't like this.
Me too.
I don't.
I was so excited when I heard the two of you brought this topic up yesterday. I thought you'd have calls upon call. This could be a 10-part series. I was in my mind.
Well, Denise, thank you. Yeah, thanks for your call. And Debbie, I can't add a thing to what Debbie said. I would just say I'm glad you mentioned at the start of your call classic education or classical education. And I came across a beautiful article in the Denver Catholic. It's the newspaper of the Archdiocese of Denver. And it just basically, I just want to read this because this is important for people to understand. Classical education focuses on inspiring students to read more, think about what they read, and communicate effectively about it. It is called classical as it looks back to Greco-Roman civilization and the Christian culture of the Middle Ages for inspiration, both in approach and in content matters such as classical language. And here's I think the important line for me. It says, this approach does not focus primarily on practical outcomes as the goal, but the formation of the mind. And so you got to put philosophy in there. You have to put languages in there. You have to put, proper science and all of this. So for a well-formed mind, so these students come out and, they can act and contribute to society and not just, look at everything as just how does what was the outcome of that? So I'm glad you mentioned that, Denise, at the start of your call.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I mean, there's so many things. I feel like our children are coming out, and they're, in 10 years, they're not going to know what any of these words that we utilize or use mean because they have not learned them. So they're, instead of us just learning them rotely like we always did by working it out, they're just not going to have them. They're going to be obsolete. They'll use the same words over and over and over.
Well, real quickly, Jerry, Denise, hold on. We got a call from a gentleman from Alberta, Canada, John, and he was amazing. And he was talking about how the Catholic schools are publicly funded in Alberta, and they do a lot of re-catechizing, if you will, of the administration and the parents. And that is so true, because I tell you what, this is what just drives me crazy. And those of you who are RE catechists, you will understand this. Okay, you'll get this. parents will drop off their kids and expect their kids to be fully catechized in 50 minutes at a catechetical class. Are you kidding me? You cannot do that. It has to be done at home. It has to be done at home. Folks, you got to do your work at home. You are the primary catechist. I'm not trying to lecture. I'm not trying to preach. I'm just telling you that's a heavy responsibility you put on the catechist, because we are there to just try to explain things, to get kids to process things better. We are not there to be the parents. Okay, we're not. And that's, I think, what happens. We send our kids to even Catholic school thinking they're covered, they're going to be Catholic forever. And it's a good intention, don't get me wrong. But I don't think that's how it works. It has to be a comprehensive approach. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned you're not trying to preach or anything. I'd love to hear you when you are trying to preach. That would be very inspiring. Denise, we're going to let you go on that. Thank you, Denise. No, don't apologize. That was beautiful. Thank you, Denise. We got, as you said, a lot of other callers to get to. One other quick thing before we go to Virginia and Kelly and Jerry and the others. It's not called a liberal arts education by accident. And what does that mean? A lot of people hear the word liberal and they say, "Oh my goodness, we don't want to be liberal and all that." It doesn't apply to that. The root of the word liberal is liber in Latin. It means free. Like we have libre in Spanish. It means free. So a liberal arts education is designed to free the mind, not in the way that the world, Debbie, is currently saying, free your mind, be a free thinker, right. Think for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to unlock the mind to the truths of God, to the truths of the world, to the truths of reality, metaphysical truths, and allow us to be able to look at everything in our lives, everything in the world around us, and think objectively and critically and act accordingly, not to do what we want, but to do what we ought to do. This is what a liberal and by the way, the Catholic Church is largely responsible for the development of the university system and, of course, astronomy and science and so many other things. So the Church has it right on these things. And we just got to try and shore these things up whenever we can. So just wanted to add that.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, thank you again, Denise in Texas. Virginia, you've been waiting also on Guadalupe Radio Network. Look at you guys go. Hi, Virginia. Welcome.
Good morning to both of you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to mention these are changing times, and I think that it takes prayer and to make decisions. I know that maybe many dioceses are requesting that we vaccinate. There was a comment yesterday, and I want to follow up on that. We had to deal with that decision, my husband and I, and previously, we were able to get the affidavit form from the state, and it would be waived to vaccinate measles, some of those vaccines. But because a lot of people are coming down with it now, some bishops might feel the responsibility to vaccinate, And my husband and I thought, we're under obedience. And, yeah, we're accountable to God to make these decisions. But if our bishop is making a different decision that we are making, we're just going to keep our kids in Catholic school and go vaccinate. I know some of the vaccines are not mandatory, like the papillomavirus. We don't do that one. But if any mandatory, that the measles, if an adult gets the measles, could die, right? So I just want to also think that our bishops in prayer have to make decisions for the community and for the world to look responsible. So they might not understand that some of those vaccines have aborted baby cells or tissue or, whatever. My husband and I just felt like, okay, now we're under obedience. It's no longer on us to make a decision not to vaccinate. So we went ahead and vaccinated to keep the kids in Catholic school. Just wanted to make that comment.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just real quickly, just to let you know, not all Catholic schools around the country have those requirements. I mean, it wasn't that way here in Arizona. Okay, so just to let you know, different people were up with different things that were happening. So, but you're in a position where it sounds like you had to make that decision to keep your children in Catholic schools. I just would go back to what Jerry said yesterday, Virginia, if you heard what he was talking about when he's a chaplain in the chaplaincy program in his local hospital, and they require certain things, vaccinations, in order for him to serve in that capacity. And Jerry, I can tell you this, Jerry's not big on getting the flu shot. He hasn't ever gotten the flu shot and doesn't want the flu shot, okay? But he had to do it in order to do the ministry. And so he took it to prayer and, in good faith, he just went ahead with it. And that's unfortunate, things like this are going to happen. We're going to be faced with certain regulations and requirements in order for us to do what we feel is best for the ultimate goal. And it sounds like your ultimate goal, Virginia, is to have your children in Catholic schools in that environment. And I think, I guess at this point, you have to just trust. But I would also express your concerns about things. I think sometimes we as Catholics, we sit quiet until the very end, and then we say something and it's too late. So maybe just also express your views on things. Jerry, what do you think?
Well, I just want to thank Virginia for the call. And you're right, Debbie. I would not ordinarily get any kind of shot, flu shot or anything like that. But to be the hospital situation was I could have actually worn a mask if I didn't want to get the flu shot. But, I talked to the head of the chaplaincy department, and we all agreed, when you're bringing Christ to people and praying with people and trying to comfort and console people, it's just better, I think, without that. It almost seemed like a barrier to me.
Barrier. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if
Absolutely.
I had a mask on, it just seemed like a barrier between me and bringing Christ to them. So, I went ahead and submitted myself to that. And, thanks be to God, everything's fine. And, so that's a decision parents have to prayerfully make. But the church does talk about these things. And on the other side of the break, there are two resources that I'm going to give out that have, I think, information about, vaccines for kids and the ethics and all of that. So stay with us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Lauren Ashburn.
I've always been pro-life, but have never been able to talk about it in the news. And now, not only do I share it internally, but I share it with a global audience.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
He is honored by the Church as a saint with the title of the Angelic Doctor.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Thomas Aquinas wrote a basic textbook for young theology students that became the Church's most famous and comprehensive guide to the faith, the Summa Theologica. It is still read today and helped earn him the title Doctor of the Church. He died in 1274.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck. This is an EWTN bookmark brief. I just finished speaking with Al Smith, compiler and editor of The Cries of Jesus from the Cross, a Fulton Sheen anthology published by Sophia Institute Press, available through our EWTN religious catalog, EWTNRC.com. So, Al, tell us what's it about.
Fulton Sheen was one of the best deliverers of wisdom, timeless truths. And this anthology contains classic works that many people are familiar with, but there's three lost works in here that many people are interested in, books that haven't been seen in 80 years. The Rainbow of Sorrows, the Seven Virtues, and the Seven Words to the Cross.
The Cries of Jesus from the Cross, a Fulton Sheen anthology. We all love Fulton Sheen, Sophia Institute Press, available through the EWTN religious catalog, EWTNRC.com. Look for the entire interview I did with Al, coming soon on the network. This has been a Bookmark Brief. Thanks for stopping by.
Hi, this is Janet Williams. We embrace the essence of feminine spirituality on Women of Grace tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie and Michael Birchfield and Ryan Penny and Jeff Burson. Rich Jesse's going to be back soon after spending about 2 or 3 weeks with his lovely wife,
Magnolia.
Laura. And their beautiful little girl, Magnolia, the second. The first daughter was Rose Grace? Yeah. Rose. So
he needs to have a Lily. I'm just going to tell you right up front.
He needs to have a boy is what he has to have.
What would he name a boy? It can't be part of a garden, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe we can poll the Take Two family and see what they would name Rich and Laura's boy when they have one.
He needs a boy, yeah.
I mentioned going into the pause there real quickly, and then we'll get to the other calls here. And this touches upon the question of if anyone has concerns about the vaccines and so forth, which really is not the topic of this show. So we're not going to pursue this any further after this. But there are two groups. One is the National Catholic Bioethics Center. It's ncbcenter.org. They're on top of this, folks, way more than we possibly could be on this show. ncbcenter.org, and the other is the Catholic Medical Association. Association, and they are at Cath, C-A-T-H, Med, M-E-D, cathmed.org. So there's two organizations. If anyone has any concerns about that, or you just want information to be able to talk intelligently about that very, very important subject. We're not downplaying it, but it is a bit tangential to our topic here today. So.
And everybody has their specific situations with vaccines and their personal experiences and everything. So there's a lot to be said about this. Probably we could do a show on it in the future, but let's really focus on the Catholic school system, okay, and what we're teaching our children by way of the faith and their development and how they are to be Catholics going into this world. So if we could talk about that, that would be great, because that could help all of our parents who are discerning whether they're sending their children to private school, charter school, independent school, or Catholic school. Okay, Kelly is up next in Margate, New Jersey. Where is Margate, New Jersey?
You don't know where that is?
I don't. Kelly, where is that? Is that central New Jersey?
No, it's down the very southern tip by the beach. Now we're out of Philly and near Cape May.
Okay, cool. I was I was up north in northern Jersey, Kelly.
Yeah, this is at the bottom, southern Jersey.
Yeah, beautiful. It's beautiful. Beautiful places.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what do you think about this, Kelly?
Okay, so I just turned on the radio a few minutes ago, and the first thought that came to my head was that Jesus wants the little ones to come to him. And as a church, we have seriously failed in Catholic education, and we're now going on 3 generations lost to learning the faith. And there's lots of reasons. We all know, if we've studied our faith, we all know the historical reasons and everything. But when my father, who's 90, was a child, he went to a grammar school that was free for everyone in the parish. I went to that same school, and me and my siblings, everything was free. And high school was as well, because our grammar school parish paid for our high school. Mm-hmm. So we had financially responsible priest who took care of the children and the parish. And now my generation, I had to pay a lot of money for my son to go to Catholic education. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, we in the United States have spent $4 billion on the sex abuse scandal and lawyers, lobbyists, and payouts and cover-ups. So we just really need to look, like, where have our priorities been? Have we really cared about the children? Have we held our leadership accountable for what they do with our money? Do we even know? Are we paying attention? When the first thing they do is close our schools. And they didn't tell us why. I mean, we had a school closed here that was full, but the bishop just made up stories why he's going to close the schools. Now, we've really, as the leadership has failed us. We need to know that, and we know that on many levels. And our children are in the culture of death, and they're struggling, and we have the fullness of the faith, and we need to take responsibility and accountability and not depend on just the leadership to run the show, because they've really, this couple generations has done a really bad job. For the most part, there's some good ones, but for the most part, we've been failed as a Catholic Church.
Well, okay, so a couple things, Kelly. I just want to say real quickly, if I may, Jerry, if I can just jump in here. Kelly, I said yesterday I worked with a parish for 6 years as the adult formation director. It had a Catholic school, beautiful, successful Catholic school, K through 8th, attached to it. And I will tell you that I used to go to all these meetings, diocesan-wide, with parishes that had Catholic schools attached to it. And Catholic schools can very much be a drain on the overall budget of the parish. And what I mean by that is, remember, each parish is kind of like its own little corporation, okay? And so they have to function with the budget and what comes in on the collection plate and everything, and they have to, parcel it out to every ministry, and then the public school, the Catholic school, and then the parents' involvement and everything. And I'm not, please let me share this. I was a parent. I'm a parent, of 2 boys. Okay. So I get it. I'm talking like a parent here. It was shocking to me how the parents would send their kids to Catholic school, spend that tuition, and then they had zero involvement in the Catholic school. They didn't go to Sunday Mass there. We never saw them there. They didn't participate in parish activities. It was very interesting. It takes a group effort to make things happen. It takes people's buy-in to a philosophy. It takes them, like what I shared with that letter from Bishop Olmsted today about the Wichita diocese. It takes a whole entire diocese to come together and feel that it's their responsibility to help everybody grow in the faith. Not just the parents, not just the extended family, not just the parish community, but the whole entire community. And I just will say that I think that sometimes we as parents have to step up and help this out, because our bishops and our priests, they are spread so thin. I can just, and I'm not trying to sound like I defend all the clergy. I'm not trying to sound like that, Kelly. It's just, I think we need to come together as a Catholic body, the faithful. We are the Catholic Church. The faithful are the Catholic Church. We've got to come together. And so I don't know if you've thought about that or prayed about that, or, what's your thoughts on that? Tell me if you think I'm way off base.
No, I'm just saying that, there's been, our priorities in the Catholic Church have, and especially through leadership, have not supported religious education for our children, nor have the kids. We've lost the generations. We've lost the parents. Yep. We've lost it because of the hypocrisy, because of it's satanic. Of course, Satan wants to destroy the church, and that he has everybody helping him in the clergy, in the people, in the culture. There's many things. So I'm just saying, in one generation, we went from free Catholic school for everybody in the parish to too expensive that you can't send your kids. Right. And we've had money just wasted to cover for evil. And so there's responsibility for laity to start, say, if we want our church and we want our children educated and to know the faith, we can't wait for somebody else to give us permission. We just got to start doing it. We got to make our parishes come alive and be lighthouses in our community.
Amen. And starts in our homes. It's domestic church, Kelly. And we can do that. St. Teresa of Calcutta talked about it. All the saints, it starts in our homes. And a lot of people don't realize that. They think that it starts outside of their home. It starts in their home. So, Jerry?
Well, I would just say here, this is almost kind of like you got to peel the layers back here. You got to go back a step, all the way back to when parents are raising their kids, when the kids are in the womb, when a couple is dating and courting, marriage prep, and then grooming those young people to know what a vocation to marriage is. So all of these factors play into what family life is intended to be by God. We look around today and we hardly see, we see very few examples of that. Thanks be to God, there are some. But this is a very, very complex question. And I go back to what you read from Bishop Olmsted, Debbie, about how he said it's the whole diocese. If you have dynamic things going on in every vocational sector, in the parishes, in the schools, you got vocations, strong families, and maybe this is a pie in the sky ideal, but I don't think it is, because in Wichita they're doing it. But the thing is that we always talk about how the church it's like this huge ship. When a giant ship wants to change direction or go even slightly on a different course, it could take a long time for that, for the boat to kind of turn and go in that direction. So Kelly and Debbie and everybody, I think it's our prayers right now that are going to help, right? And families, it's not unfair to say, I don't think it's improper to say we need to circle the wagons right now.
That's right.
As families and close in, close ranks and hunker down and make sure that the souls that have been entrusted to you as parents are, end up in heaven and not in hell, and that you get there as well by helping them do that. So I think it's a comprehensive thing here, but,
right.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And real quickly, may I just say something to everybody that's listening? If your Catholic school that's attached to your parish is having an event, a fundraiser, a play, something they're doing, a musical, please show up.
Especially if your kids are in it.
Yeah, but even if just as a parish community, show up. Yeah. Buy the $10 ticket, buy the $15 ticket, and show up. It's because it gives the kids encouragement that they have the community support. There's nothing worse than when these Catholic schools are trying to raise money and nobody turns out. It's just horrible. Kelly, thank you so much. See, Kelly, you hit a nerve there.
You got us both going, Kelly.
my blood pressure's sky high, Kelly, but that's okay. Have some pizza for me in New Jersey, will you, Kelly?
Go ahead.
Okay. Enjoy that beautiful southern tip of New Jersey. Thanks for the call, Kelly. Next up, Jerry in Lockport, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross. Jerry, you're on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for your interesting program, and especially today's topic.
Oh, thank you.
I found that in many Catholic schools, they're presenting the faith, but they lack apologetics courses at the high school level and in the confirmation programs. So our young people go to college, and they have no answers to the attacks on Catholicism. And so our Bishop Malone in the Buffalo Diocese has acknowledged that we're hemorrhaging young Catholics. And so I think we need to provide our youth, especially in their junior and senior years in college and Catholic education, with apologetics courses. And there are excellent books now that can be used. One is Why We're Catholic by Trent Horn from Catholic Answers. And I'm sure there are other books too, but unless we provide our youth with answers to the existence of God, the divinity of Christ, and is the Bible myth or fact, they will. That's why they're losing their faith, because they don't have those answers, which we should be providing. St. Peter said, always have an answer for always have a reason for the hope that's in you.
Yes. Jerry, you're raising a great point here, and thank you for that. You know, it's one thing. Apologetics, I think, has always been looked at as sort of a specialty, compartmentalized over here, or sort of a peripheral discipline within learning the faith and sharing the faith. That's actually not the case. I mean, the earliest Christians were apologists because there was such radical change going on from Judaism to the fulfillment of Judaism in Christ and Christianity. But I agree with you, and I'll just say this, Jerry, and Debbie as well. I spent 3 years in college at Steubenville, where I got a lot of apologetics, but I spent a year as a major seminarian, 1 year each in 2 different seminaries. There wasn't a stitch of apologetic. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, everything is apologetics in a sense, but there was no class that was called apologetics, where you learn the systematic arguments and kind of the elevator speech answers, Debbie, that these young people need. So in Jerry's defense there, this isn't even really happening a lot of times on the seminary level, maybe in some, but not all.
Very true. And I will say, Jerry, in my experience, the basics are being taught. The tenets of the faith are being taught. The development of the relationship with God, to some degree, I think is missing. And what I mean by that, I don't think we spend enough time and effort with our youth and our young adults to really get them to understand that this is their life. This is their journey. This is what, it's
their identity.
It's their identity. Thank you. I think God is so good. Thank you, Jerry. Their identity. And we are there to help them deepen that. And that's the part that's missing, because when people go onto campuses, college campuses, Jerry, all of a sudden they go from how do you go? Folks, I would love a college-age kid to call in right now. How do you go from knowing God, loving God, and then all of a sudden coming home and saying, I don't believe in God anymore? Are you kidding me? Then I would say that you really never did believe in God, because how do you do that? It's to me, it's impossible. If you really believe in something, okay, you believe in it. You may have some doubts, some things may happen along the way, but it's a little odd to me. So I agree with you. I don't think we're giving the next layer of the faith development, Jerry. Does it sound like we got that right?
I had a personal experience myself. I went to a Catholic high school and also grade school, and I was very devoted to Christ in the church, and I had a personal relationship with Christ. Mm-hmm. But then I got to college, and one of my first courses was given by an agnostic professor who spent the whole course attacking belief in God, and especially the Catholic Church. Well, no, I didn't lose my faith right away, and I didn't lose my faith thanks to the apologetics course I got at my high school. But it did present a crisis of faith to me. And if I hadn't had that apologetics course, I may very likely have lost my faith. I was actually considering going off to New York and becoming a beatnik. But anyways, thank God I had the apologetics courses.
Right.
So I held on, and I do believe I wrote an article years ago called Apologetics, the Missing Link in Modern Catechetics. And I really believe I seen and heard so many cases of kids coming from good Catholic homes where I believe they really did have the faith, but lose the faith because of the attacks on their faith. And we have a need for intellectual answers to our belief. It isn't just emotion. It has to be backed up with reason. And that's why Peter said, always have a reason for the faith that's in you. And today, the kids just don't have it, and it's been going on for 50 years now, and that's why the church is in such trouble. And many of the adults, including the parents and teachers, also don't have reasons for the faith that's in them. So if their kids have questions, they don't have the answers.
Right. Jerry, are you going to share with Jerry that we're going to be on Catholic Answers Live talking exactly about this?
Oh, yeah. It's a good reminder for Jerry and Lockport and everyone who's listening. If you want another hour of Jerry and Debbie, we will be on the first hour of Catholic Answers Live today at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. And our topic is going to be the number one prayer intention and number one burden on parents and grandparents' hearts that we hear as we travel around the country, and that is children and grandchildren who are away from the faith. But we're going to put a little bit of a spin on it here. It's not just, are they away from the faith, what can be done? But you as parents and grandparents, do you feel responsible? Do you feel you
Guilty.
didn't do enough? Guilty? Is there some guilt there? Because really, in most cases, there shouldn't be. But it's understandable, Debbie, that a parent would feel responsible, completely responsible for whether their adult child who has free will remains in the faith or not. So that's what we're going to talk about. So please join us on Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Were you going to say something else to Jerry?
Yeah.
About apologetics?
I forgot what it was.
See, we're getting older. Jerry, thank you so much. We appreciate that very much. You're getting us fired up, you guys, and which is good. It'll probably be great for Catholic Answers Live. We'll be well on our way with the high energy about this. But we're in critical times right now, folks. We're in a tough time. There's the persecution of Christians are happening all around the world at great rates and intensity. I mean, this is bad. We're in a tough time, and we need to wake up. And this is good conversation we're having. In fact, a phenomenal conversation, thanks to Jerry and the others. So thank you so much for your contribution to this subject.
Yeah, Debbie, I'm glad you pointed that out, because we're seeing around the world our brothers and sisters are paying a price for their faith in terms of death in many situations. What would we die for? We have to ask ourselves, what would I die for? Would I die for some theoretical church with these teachings that I don't really understand and they don't relate to my life? And no, we're going to be turn and run. And the apostles turned and ran, so that it's not, we wouldn't be the first ones to do that. But for us to stand up and even be white martyrs, that's not dying for the faith, but that's just being persecuted maybe and ridiculed and, I don't know, losing a job or whatever. In order for us to just stand up for the faith, we have to know what it is we're standing up for. So this just ties in completely to the entire topic today. So
absolutely. Any emails you wanted to read, or any social media posts or anything? Real quickly?
Yeah. We can get to Lori next here in a second. There was a really nice email from Anonymous in Houston. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Jerry. What a blessing. Thank you for offering this subject. It is oh so right for now. I switched on my iPad and watching on YouTube when Jerry was introducing Denise. She gave a great witness exposing the, quote, agenda, end quote, that they are trying to rope us into, even in the private schools. My children attend private school, but we are considering Catholic school since I returned to the faith in 2017. Utmost gratitude to you both for fearlessly evangelizing. Wow. Anonymous, thank you. I don't know how fearless it is, but
no, but I'll go one step further, because I just have to say something. I had a lot of teachers and professors. I had a lot in college and my graduate school who were borderline agnostics, some probably hidden atheists. And quite honestly, I'm going to say something right now. They were so passionate about trying to convince the fact that they believe in nothing. Okay, they were so convicted. They wanted us so badly to feel the way they feel. It was so obvious to me, and I have to just say this, please forgive me if I get a ton of emails from agnostics and atheists. They felt nothing. Okay. I would rather have somebody believe in something than nothing. I'm just going to say that. I just have to say that because I used to watch these professors and I wanted to go up and hug them. I felt so bad for them because I felt like it was just a hollow shell trying to convince me to go down that same path. I just have to say that. So folks, if you're following agnostics and atheists, be careful. Be real careful. I just have, okay. Sorry. I just felt compelled to say that.
Well,
my Italian's coming out.
We do not have an available phone line right now, and we are not going to get to all of you. So this is why we need the after show. Pray for that, folks. We're making strides in the technology and so forth. I think right about the time of our 4th anniversary, the middle of June, we're going to finish the show on EWTN, and then Debbie and I will jump over to social media where you can join us with your participation there. So that's coming up soon. But we're going to go to Lori next, also in New Jersey, listening in Point Pleasant.
I know where Point Pleasant is.
XM 130. Hi, Lori. You got a friend here in Debbie.
Hi, Lori.
Oh, hi, Debbie. You're from New Jersey?
I'm from West Caldwell, up north, but I know Point Pleasant very well.
No, my husband's from Verona.
Oh my gosh, that's right next door. I used to hang out in Verona.
Oh, so did we.
Yeah.
Well, this is a terrific topic. I'm a mother of 5 children and a wife to one, and I have ages 13 to 23. And I recently, the last 3 years, I've been teaching in Catholic schools. My children, however, go to public school.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Go right ahead.
Okay. So the primary reason was because financially I wanted to put our children in our parish school, but my husband was not really for that financially. And I even attempted homeschooling when they were little, like preschool age. And I got involved with a wonderful mothers group, and I did Bible studies with them where we'd bring our children. And I probably did that for 10 years. So I had a ton of support in my Catholic identity as a mom, and my children had that. So I was comfortable putting them into public school. And I'm still feeling comfortable about it because, in fact, the Catholic high school that I recently worked for, I didn't find to be very Catholic. And I was laid off 6 weeks ago because of budget cuts. And I'm working back in the public school, just substituting, and I'm very happy there. And I was very unhappy when I'm looking back, the 18 months I was in the Catholic high school.
Right. I don't think you have to feel anything bad about that. I sent my children to public school. I was a religious educator. I worked right next to a public school. It was part of our parish. I didn't send my kids there. I actually had them enrolled in the Catholic school. I chose not to because the Catholic school was small, and unfortunately there was some bullying that was going on. That's one of the downsides of a small school. Sometimes you can get some bullying and some targeting, and I didn't want that. And so I figured I could catechize them at home. They could be part of religious education, went to public school, and my kids did just fine. But I think it comes from where are they getting their Catholic education? You know, if they're getting a full, well-rounded, solid, authentic Catholic education, well, then that's great. If they're getting it at a Catholic school or getting it at a public school or at home, you know, it has to be this really a concentrated effort to make sure the children know the faith in a deep way that they can relate to it, because at their level, sometimes they have to relate to it after school or in social activities or going to parish activities. It's not just going to Mass one time a week. So I think, Lori, it sounds like everything's working out fine with you.
Thank you, Lori, for the call. Appreciate that. We're just running out of time here. In fact, we're going to hear that music right about now. Tony and Phil and Carla and the others, gosh, we're going to have the after show where you can all, if you can stick around a little bit, you'll be able to participate then. But for now, we're going to move on to another topic tomorrow. I just wanted to mention a quick email here that we got, and it is from Gabby. I wanted to share that my husband is a principal at a Catholic school, and it is truly a ministry. I can't imagine not raising our 3 little ones without our Catholic school community. And she talks about how it's made it possible to keep Jesus at the very center of their lives. So, Debbie, a lot of great things going on out there, and I know you love nurses and teachers.
And teachers and first responders, everybody that's taking care of other souls. I love them. I think they're going to get a special place in heaven. Tomorrow we're going to talk about pets and how they can feel our needs and understand us. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day. See you real soon.
This is the home of Father Wade Meneses. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. EWTN News Nightly. Dr. Ray Gorendi and Mother Angelica.
Third Millennium Media presents Debbie Georgiani.
The world tells us not to be merciful, and we as Catholic Christians